Soulmate breaking news, they just heard something about you, and now they're desperate to know if they still have a chance. My beloved child, stop for a moment and listen carefully, because the message you are hearing right now is not about chasing someone, begging for attention, or trying to force a relationship into existence. This is about a change that happened quietly, behind the scenes, while you were living your life, healing your heart, and learning to stop expecting people to give you what they were not ready to give. Something reached your soulmate. Something they heard, something they discovered, something that suddenly made them look at you differently. And ever since that moment, a question has been repeating inside their mind: do I still have a chance with them? My beloved child, they may have acted as though they were unaffected. They may have stayed silent. They may have pretended that they had moved on. They may even have convinced themselves that you would always be there whenever they decided to return. But something has changed. The confidence they once had about you is beginning to disappear. The certainty that you would wait forever is beginning to break. And now they are wondering whether the door they once ignored is still open. Before you continue listening, understand something important. This message is not telling you to chase anyone. It is not telling you to abandon your standards. It is not asking you to put your life on hold. Instead, it is inviting you to recognize the power of your own transformation. Because sometimes the greatest shift in a soulmate connection happens when you stop trying to make the connection happen. Sometimes the person who once took your presence for granted only understands your value when they realize your absence has become real. And that is where this story begins. There was a time when they believed they understood you. They thought they knew how you would react. They thought they could disappear and return whenever they wanted. They thought your heart would remain exactly where they left it. But you changed. You became quieter. You became stronger. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped proving your love. You stopped chasing answers from someone who refused to give them. And while you were doing all of that, they were watching more than you realized. They may not have said anything, but they noticed. They noticed that you were no longer reaching out the same way. They noticed that you were becoming more independent. They noticed that something in your energy had changed. They noticed that you were no longer waiting for their approval. And now something they heard about you has made that realization even stronger. Perhaps someone mentioned your name. Perhaps they saw something online. Perhaps they heard that you were doing well. Perhaps they discovered that you had changed your priorities. Perhaps they heard that other people were noticing you. Or perhaps the information was much simpler. Someone told them that you were no longer waiting. Whatever the exact circumstance, the result was the same. Their heart became unsettled. They began asking questions they had avoided for a long time. What if I waited too long? What if they really moved on? What if someone else gets the place in their heart that I once had? What if they no longer see me the same way? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what if I lost the person who was actually meant to matter to me? My beloved child, this is why you should not underestimate the power of silence. Silence does not always mean the story is over. Sometimes silence is where reality finally becomes loud enough to hear. When you stopped talking, they had to listen to their own thoughts. When you stopped chasing, they had to face their own desire. When you stopped demanding answers, they had to confront the questions themselves. And now they are beginning to understand something they could not understand while you were constantly available. Your presence was a gift, not an obligation. Your love was something to appreciate, not something to assume. Your patience was not permission to hurt you endlessly. Your heart was not a waiting room where they could arrive whenever they felt lonely. And this realization may be uncomfortable for them, but it is necessary. There is a reason this message begins with breaking news. Something has broken open emotionally. A wall that they built around their feelings is beginning to crack. The excuses they used to protect themselves are becoming harder to believe. The distractions that once helped them avoid thinking about you are no longer working. They may go through their day normally on the outside, but internally they keep returning to the same memories. A conversation. A look. A moment. A message. A place. A song. A simple detail that reminds them of you. And every reminder carries the same uncomfortable truth: they never truly finished the story in their heart. They simply stopped talking about it. My beloved child, you need to hear this part carefully. There is a difference between someone missing you and someone being ready to love you correctly. Do not confuse the two. Someone can miss your presence and still be emotionally immature. Someone can regret losing you and still need to grow. Someone can become jealous and still not understand commitment. Someone can suddenly want you back because they fear losing you and still have work to do before they can build something healthy with you. So do not let the excitement of this message make you abandon wisdom. If they return, let their actions speak. If they reach out, listen, but do not immediately surrender your boundaries. If they confess their feelings, appreciate the honesty, but look for consistency. You have learned too much to return to the version of yourself that accepted crumbs simply because you were hungry for love. You are not the same person anymore. And perhaps that is exactly why this situation is changing. They are not only wondering whether they still have a chance with you. They are wondering whether the old version of you still exists. The version that would forgive everything instantly. The version that would accept any explanation. The version that would keep waiting through endless uncertainty. The version that would prioritize their emotions above your own peace. That version is disappearing. And they can feel it. This is why their curiosity has become desperation. They are beginning to understand that access to your heart is not guaranteed. You are becoming someone who can love deeply without losing yourself. That is a powerful transformation. And when someone truly cared about you but did not fully appreciate you, seeing that transformation can create a profound emotional reaction. They begin to wonder what they could have done differently. They replay old decisions. They remember moments when you needed them and they were not there. They remember words they should have said but did not. They remember chances they allowed to pass. And regret often arrives quietly. It does not always look like tears. Sometimes it looks like checking your profile. Sometimes it looks like asking mutual connections about you. Sometimes it looks like suddenly becoming interested in things they previously ignored because those things remind them of you. Sometimes it looks like typing a message and deleting it. Sometimes it looks like opening an old conversation and reading it again. Sometimes it looks like staring at your name and wondering whether contacting you would be welcomed or rejected. And sometimes the hardest part is that they do not know what you would say anymore. That uncertainty is new for them. They used to believe they could predict you. Now they cannot. My beloved child, you may have felt forgotten, but this message suggests something very different. You were remembered in silence. There are people who can remove someone from their daily routine without removing them from their heart. Your soulmate may have tried to convince themselves that distance would make the feelings disappear. They may have believed time would solve everything. But time does not automatically erase meaningful connections. Sometimes time removes the noise and leaves only the truth. And what remains when the noise disappears? The memories. The unanswered questions. The emotional connection. The realization that what they had with you was not as replaceable as they once imagined. This is why hearing something about you affected them so strongly. Information can become a mirror. Perhaps they heard that you were happy. Perhaps they heard that you were becoming successful. Perhaps they heard that you had changed. Perhaps they heard that someone was interested in you. Whatever it was, it forced them to look at themselves. Suddenly they could no longer imagine you standing still while they figured themselves out. They realized that your life was continuing. Your world was moving. Your future was developing. And they were not automatically included in it. That realization can shake someone deeply. Because there is a huge difference between thinking, I can come back whenever I want, and realizing, if I want to come back, I may have to earn my place again. My beloved child, that is the shift. They are beginning to understand that returning is not the same as being welcomed back into the same position. They may have another chance, but it will be a different chance. If they come back, they will have to meet the person you have become, not the person they left behind. They will have to communicate differently. They will have to show consistency. They will have to take responsibility. They will have to understand that your heart is not a playground. And they may be afraid because they know this. They may fear rejection. They may fear that you no longer feel the same. They may fear that their opportunity has expired. They may fear that someone else has already captured your attention. But fear can also push someone toward honesty. There comes a point when avoiding the truth becomes more painful than admitting it. And your soulmate may be approaching that point. Perhaps this is why you have felt an unusual emotional shift lately. Perhaps you have suddenly thought about them after a long period of peace. Perhaps their memory appeared unexpectedly. Perhaps you dreamed about them. Perhaps you found yourself remembering a specific moment. Do not automatically interpret every thought as a prediction. Sometimes the mind simply processes unfinished emotions. But if this message resonates with your personal experience, use it as an invitation to reflect rather than an instruction to chase. Ask yourself, if they return today, would I want the same relationship I once wanted? That question matters. Because sometimes we think we want a person back when what we really want is closure, validation, or proof that we mattered. And you deserve to know the difference. You deserve to choose from a place of peace, not desperation. You deserve love that does not make you constantly question your worth. You deserve communication that does not leave you decoding every silence. You deserve someone who can stand beside you openly rather than keeping you hidden in uncertainty. And if your soulmate truly wants another chance, they will eventually need to demonstrate that they understand this. My beloved child, there is another layer to this story. They may be hearing about you through someone else because they are not brave enough to ask you directly. They may be curious about your life while pretending not to care. They may casually ask a mutual friend, "How are they doing?" They may act as though the question is harmless, but underneath it is something much deeper. They want information. They want to know whether the door is closed. They want to know whether you have moved on. They want to know whether you are angry. They want to know whether you still remember them. They want to know whether they still have an emotional place in your world. And the more they learn, the more they may realize that you are no longer waiting for them to make a decision. You made your own decision, to move forward. That can be both attractive and frightening. Because the person who once chased them is no longer chasing. The person who once needed answers is finding peace without them. The person who once wanted their attention is learning to give attention to themselves. And that kind of transformation can awaken respect. Perhaps they are finally seeing the strength they once overlooked. Perhaps they are realizing that your love was not weakness. Your patience was not desperation. Your tenderness was not something to exploit. You simply cared deeply. And now that you are protecting your heart, they are beginning to understand what they had. My beloved child, let this sink into your heart. You do not need to convince anyone of your value. The right person does not require a presentation. You do not have to explain why you are worthy. You do not have to compete with another person. You do not have to become someone else. Your job is not to make them choose you. Your job is to choose yourself and allow their actions to reveal their intentions. If they truly have changed, you will see it. If they truly regret their actions, you will see accountability. If they truly want another chance, you will see effort. If they truly understand your value, they will not ask you to accept less than you deserve. And if they are still playing games, your wisdom will protect you. This is why the strongest part of this story is not whether they return. The strongest part is who you have become while they were away. You have survived the nights when you thought you would never feel normal again. You have survived unanswered messages. You have survived disappointment. You have survived wondering whether you were the problem. You have survived the temptation to chase someone who was running from themselves. And now you are standing differently. You are learning that love should add peace to your life, not consume it. You are learning that patience must have boundaries. You are learning that forgiveness does not mean unlimited access. You are learning that someone can be important to you without being entitled to you. And that lesson changes everything. Your soulmate may sense that change even if they cannot explain it. There is something different about the way you carry yourself. Something quieter. Something stronger. You are not trying to prove anything. You are not trying to make them jealous. You are not performing happiness for them. You are simply living. And genuine growth has a different energy than performance. People can often sense when someone is pretending to move on. But when someone truly begins rebuilding their life, the difference becomes obvious. That may be what they heard. Maybe someone said, "They are doing really well." Maybe someone mentioned that you look happier. Maybe someone said you have changed your priorities. Maybe they discovered that you are pursuing a goal you once talked about. Maybe they learned that you no longer talk about them the way you used to. And that last detail may have hurt the most. Because when someone realizes their name has stopped dominating your conversations, they begin to wonder whether their place in your heart has changed too. My beloved child, sometimes the absence of your attention becomes louder than your presence ever was. They may have become accustomed to your emotional availability. They may have assumed that you would always respond. Now they are facing uncertainty. And uncertainty creates urgency. They may be asking themselves, should I contact them now? Should I wait? What if they reject me? What if they have someone else? What if I apologize? What if they do not believe me? What if I tell them how I feel and they tell me it is too late? These questions can keep someone awake. But remember, their fear is not your responsibility. You do not have to rush because they are finally uncomfortable. You do not have to fix the consequences of their hesitation. Let them experience the weight of their choices. Sometimes a person needs to feel the distance they created before they can understand why closeness mattered. And if they truly love you, they will not blame you for the consequences of their own decisions. They will take responsibility. They will say, I know I hurt you. They will say, I know I disappeared. They will say, I know I made you question where you stood. They will say, I should have handled things differently. Those words matter, but actions matter more. Anyone can make a beautiful speech when they are afraid of losing someone. Real transformation appears after the fear passes. So if they return, watch what happens after the emotional moment. Do they remain consistent? Do they communicate? Do they respect your boundaries? Do they show up when there is no crisis? Do they make room for your needs? Do they treat you with the same care when they feel secure as they do when they fear losing you? Those are the questions that matter. My beloved child, there is no need to predict exactly when they will return. There is no need to count days or interpret every coincidence. Let the future reveal itself naturally. You are not being asked to become obsessed with signs. You are being reminded to remain grounded. Your life is happening now. Your healing is happening now. Your growth is happening now. Your future is happening now. Do not postpone your happiness while waiting for another person to decide what they want. If they are meant to return in a healthy way, they can meet you while you are moving forward. You do not need to stand still. And perhaps that is the most beautiful possibility in this entire story. They may return not because you chased them, but because they finally realized that your life continued without them. They may see you from a distance and realize that the person they underestimated has become someone they deeply respect. They may realize that your love was never about possession. You simply wanted something genuine. And perhaps now they want to offer what they could not offer before. But let them prove it. Let time test their intentions. Let consistency reveal the truth. My beloved child, you are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not less valuable because someone failed to recognize your worth at the right time. Sometimes people understand the value of a connection only after losing access to it. That does not mean you should return to the past. It means you can allow the past to teach you while keeping your eyes on the future. Your soulmate may be desperate to know whether they still have a chance, but the answer should not come from their fear. It should come from your peace. If you are willing to give them another opportunity, let that opportunity be based on new behavior, not old memories. If you are not willing, honor that too. You are allowed to close a door that once mattered. You are allowed to say, I loved you, but I cannot return to what hurt me. You are allowed to forgive without reconnecting. You are allowed to care without reopening your heart. And you are allowed to give someone another chance if their actions genuinely demonstrate growth. There is no universal answer. Your heart and your wisdom must work together. My beloved child, listen closely now, because this is where the energy of the entire story changes. The person who once wondered whether they could live without you may now be wondering whether they can live with the regret of losing you. That is a different question. Before, they were focused on freedom. Now, they are thinking about consequences. Before, they were focused on what they wanted. Now, they are thinking about what they lost. Before, they assumed TI.